Chapter 31. Tensions Flare. July was especially taxing for Lillian. So much change. This was the first month after the car accident, and she was forced into hiring a live-in nanny to care for her 3 children, something she was previously adamant about not doing. She was left choiceless. With her mother-in-law deceased and Ben fighting for his life in the hospital, Lil had to rely on the nanny, Mildred, for so much. Lillian spent many grueling hours visiting, praying with, and talking to her comatose, unresponsive husband. The hospital vending machine food and bad coffee were relentless to her digestive tract, and the weight gain was a constant battle for her too. All the entertainment Lillian could find was reading material and part of an occasional TV program, while she sat in the waiting room anticipating being called in for visiting hours. She devoured countless novels that summer, and she finished some during the visits. That caused her to pick up a dreaded newspaper when she couldn't find a Mad magazine to make her laugh a bit. Newspapers were constant reminders of her life's decisions and the bind those decisions were putting her in as of late. The news headlines even led to Lil confessing to Ben about her race. Of course, he couldn't respond, but she told him nonetheless. The civil rights movement was seemingly at a crescendo in the summer of 1967. Unrest and riots initiated by race were an all-time high across the United States. City after city, incident after incident. She felt a sort of survivor's guilt, being black and unaffected. Lillian had so many moments of tears that would overtake her suddenly. The tears were due to numerous reasons that she couldn't always pinpoint as they surfaced. They could have been over her lifeless husband, who was technically still alive, or having to hire a nanny she barely knew, the state of the world, her fear of what would be, or it all. What she knew was that she was tired. The machines that kept her husband alive and breathing were so ridiculously and excruciatingly loud. The sound could compete with the sound of scratching a chalkboard, because both sounds pierced her nerves to the same degree. The sound distracted her from reading, praying, talking to Ben, and consistently reminded her of the accident and the upheaval of her life as she had known it. Ring, ring. Bobby picked up the telephone on the stand in the hallway at his home. Hello? Lou hesitated for a beat or two. Hey, Bobby, it's me, Lou. How are you? How's Wah and your baby? Bobby responded by telling Lou they were fine, and the baby was a girl named Robbie Ann, and she was in kindergarten. Lou expressed shock at the baby being so old. She said she was happy that they were all well, and then she immediately started venting. About a month ago, we went to a wedding and we were in a car accident on the way home. Oh, by the way, I'm married and I have 3 kids now. My kids and I all survived the accident. My mother-in-law did not. My husband is in the hospital in a coma. Bobby, I miss you and I'm so exhausted. She burst into untamable tears. Lou, why haven't you kept in touch with us? I haven't stayed in touch because I hadn't told Ben, my husband, that I'm black. Well, I did tell him, but not until last week. Lou, he's incoherent. I know, but at least I told him. Better late than never. Is that what you think? Your thinking hasn't changed, has it? Does Ben appear to be coming out of the coma anytime soon? It doesn't look good. Lou, if he doesn't make it, please take the kids and y'all move to Pecan Grove. That way I can be here for y'all and it'll make raising kids easier with family around. Bobby, you probably won't believe this, but I just might do that. The two cousins talked for a few more minutes at the cost of long-distance calling. She felt comforted by his voice. She knew she could count on him to always be supportive of her and consoling to her. As the months passed by, the doctors approached Lillian and asked if she would be settled with the removal of the equipment from her dying husband's body. Although torn within, Lillian knew she couldn't keep the pace she had endured for the agonizing months since the accident. She made the ultimate decision to remove him from life support. It would be removed on the morning of December 31st. That day came and went, and at the exact stroke of midnight on the first day of 1968, no pulse could be detected. Bentley Stewart was officially pronounced dead. Lou called Bobby to inform him that she and the kids would be moving to Pecan Grove as soon as she could get their affairs in order. Bobby, pleased and relieved that he would have them so close enough to watch. Do you need help with the funeral arrangements or anything else? Sharply, Lou countered. If anybody doesn't need help with funeral arrangements, I guarantee you it's me. I buried my parents, my husband's parents. I even went with our parents to make arrangements for Grand-Mère Sue when she died. Bobby felt secure with that response. Okay, tough lady, you handle it. Then I will come there and get you and bring you back here to live. That sounds like a deal, Lou announced. Not even 1 week later, Lillian woke up in the middle of the night, disoriented. After having had a nightmare, during the dream, she pictured her 2 daughters all grown up. Each girl had a shallow tub of water and a large towel. They were washing the feet of men, one behind the next. Another scene of the same dream featured the daughters again. This scene was of them serving snacks of fruit and wine to the men and being told incessantly how beautiful they are. Lillian remembered her conversation with Bobby about returning to Pecan Grove and conceptualized how him treating her like a damsel in distress resurfaced into a bad dream she had that night. Lillian knew that moving to Pecan Grove would be the easy way out for her. It would mean lots of help from friends and relatives. But was that conclusively what she wanted? She remembered what being female felt like when she was growing up. She always felt constricted. In her opinion, she was raised to be a wife, and her own dreams and aspirations were limited and determined based only on her gender. She recalled having moved away to do what she wanted and would not return with her tail between her legs begging for assistance. Maybe it would appear that she was being prideful or even selfish. But it was more than that. Lillian wanted her daughters to witness her strength. She wanted them to watch her making choices that suited her own tastes and will, not choosing based on mere survival tactics. The culture of her birth placed women in roles for women and men in roles for men. Basically, Men were offered more choices within the town than were women. Nancy and Bryn were going to be reared with the knowledge that they could get married young if they chose to, but that would be the choice for only them to make, no biases applied. Lillian would not relocate to Pecan Grove. On March 30th, 1968, Lillian was bathing her twins. They giggled and played in the tub. Their big sister stood on the outside of the tub, pretending to help her mother. As she released the drain, Lil assisted the twins to stand so she could dry them. Before wrapping the tiny bodies into one huge, oversized towel, this mother was confronted with a truth she had been ignoring and avoiding for months. It wasn't just a difference in undertones anymore. It was more than simply a shadowing on the flesh of his cuticles or his ears. Erland was, next to his twin sister, presenting as extremely olive complected. She felt compelled to tell Quinn and Shelley and Ben's other Dallas relatives soon. Lillian called Shelley to set up a time and place for them to meet. Lil informed Shelley that she had some very important news to share with them. Shelley said it would be lovely for Lil to bring the kids over, and she would make a nice lunch for them. Lil, her nanny, and her 3 babies arrived at the home of her husband's cousin and his wife at around 11:30 the next morning. The couple lived in a mid-century modern ranch-style home. From the foyer, 4 widely placed steps descended into a sunken den with a fireplace floating in the center of the room. What little furniture existed was low to the ground. Large pillows and beanbag chairs lined the perimeter. The wall-to-wall shag carpet was plush and orange and oh so comfy. The entire room smelled of vinyl and macrame. One would think this room sounds safe enough for babies, but childproof it was not. The short coffee table sported a 3-dimensional, multi-level tic-tac-toe game with marble balls as the markers, among other not-so-safe-for-kids games. There was also a checkerboard table with the pieces left sitting out on the board. Against Lil's better judgment, Bryn was left to walk around the room freely. Earl was not a real walker yet. He did manage to pull up from moment to moment as he crawled and explored the new territory. Responsible little Nancy went around moving pieces out of the way as her siblings approached. She brought them piece by piece to her nanny, who was sitting on an enormous pillow in the corner. Lil and Quinn sat on the low sofa and settled in comfortably. Shelley brought in finger sandwiches and tiny bowls of cottage cheese and berries, then sat on the short chair beside the sofa. She suggested that all could eat at their own leisure as conversations carried on. Nancy was handed a ham sandwich by her nanny, Mildred. The nanny returned to the cushion with a bowl of cottage cheese and a roast beef sandwich for herself. Lillian commenced. "I'm a black woman." She just blurted it out with no thought, decorum, or preparation. Quinn questioned, "Excuse me? That was abrupt. You're joking, right?" "No, I'm serious. That's why Erland's skin tone is deepening as he gets older." "Well, I figured maybe you were half Italian or something, not black. You're so white looking," Shelley included. Lillian informed the two of her the two of her life growing up and how her culture evolved from the beginnings of Louisiana to its current state. She told them how her town began with Alona and Louis. She explained everything to them about how she left and why. Lil didn't know what to expect from them. She hadn't anticipated a response from them. She only wanted to make sure that the relatives of her children knew everything. She thought it necessary that when Erland's full color came in, his relatives understood why and didn't talk among themselves, thinking other unkind thoughts. Having no expectations doesn't always lead to positive results. Quinn and Shelley were not receptive of Lil's news. Quinn shockingly stated, "I'm going to have to ask you not to hang around here anymore. May I make one more suggestion before severing ties permanently?" "Well, you said a lot. What's one more thing? I'm actually curious to hear what else is on your mind," Lil wondered. She continued, "I've known you for a while, and you've never expressed that you were prejudiced. It's so confusing." "I'm not prejudiced, Lillian, but I'm just not comfortable. You understand. It's not safe these days. I suggest you get this little guy to Pecan Grove, where you grew up. It sounds like a safe environment for him. If it was a safe haven since the Louisiana Purchase and the Civil War, it will be the place you'll want him. Just a thought." "Thanks for the advice, Gwen." Although her feelings were hurt for her children's sake, Lillian understood the couple's stance. April 4th, 1968. Mildred resigned from her nanny position early in the morning. Just like Quinn, she also felt unsafe due to the unrest in the country. Lil was fine with it and envisioned it happening after the time they had at the lunch visit a few days prior. April 4th was a long day. Lil moped around the house in a depressive state. Her eyes remained more viscous that day than the slick streets the day her family's car accident. When she put the babies down for a nap, she wept into her afternoon tea. She bawled into her pillow. She whimpered as she swept the kitchen floor. She searched her mind to find a memory of having ever felt so scared, so alone. She went from room to room in her house, mourning the loss of her husband, of his relatives, of her choice to not return to Pecan Grove for the sake of her daughters. Lillian did manage to pull it together for the children for the rest of that evening. They woke up from their nap time, played outside, ate dinner, had bath time and story time. The girls went straight to sleep that evening. At bedtime, Earl wanted to play. Lil sat in the rocker and held him as she rocked, hoping he would fall asleep naturally. His eyes were heavy, so she continued to rock. Eventually, she rose and placed the boy gently into his crib. She walked back to the living room and turned on the television set. The picture and sound hadn't yet come in, and already a whine from the nursery sent her back to get the baby boy, so he wouldn't awaken his twin sister. She cradled him in her arms and returned once more to the living room. Arriving in front of the television in disbelief, Lil blinked to test her eyesight, hoping to more vividly comprehend what she was seeing. Playing on the screen was a visual of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lying on the ground. Numb and discombobulated, Lil gave her baby a tight squeeze. Then she fell lifelessly into the plush rocking recliner. This news was incomprehensible. How could this man who fought for peace be taken out by violence? She looked down at her baby, breathed in the scent of his tiny scalp, and drenched it with silent tears. The reality of being a white presenting woman with two white presenting daughters and a son who was not even close to looking white, was beginning to take its toll. A decision she made at 16 and never rectified was catching up to her. No doubt this was all her fault, but now it would be impacting all lives involved. Bringing her daughters to Pecan Grove was absolutely no option for Lillian. Raising Erland any place beside Pecan Grove as a white woman was not an option. Lillian could not be in two places at the same time. The only option hit her like a ton of bricks. Lillian thought to herself with 100% assurance, Bobby will have to raise my son. He is the only person I trust with my child. She brought her boy into the nursery and laid him in the crib. She closed herself into her bathroom, covered her face in a towel, and Lillian let out the loudest howl cry that would best be described as bone-chilling or blood-curdling. A cry that scoured anger and hurt from deep within the bowels of her pain and rose up and out into the atmosphere as molten metal tears burning her eyes. She had no one to blame except herself. Bobby and Wah assisted Lil with her move to Mississippi. She had property there that she had inherited from her maternal grandparents. The renters had moved out a few months before, and she never started a new lease with any other tenants. That wasn't planned. It was just a fortunate chain of events. Money was not an issue, being the sole survivors of the jewelry empire. Lil did, however, want to get settled in and acclimated before the next school year began. She was itching to put her bachelor degree to work and have a solid distraction to rely on. Teaching would be an outlet for her, a way to clear her thoughts, and a new purpose. Bobby and Wah left and took the baby boy, Erland, with them. Lil felt like sending Erland away to live with Bobby and Wah was the best thing for him, but she knew it was not the best thing for her. The crushing, paralyzing pain she felt never went away until she was able to talk to Erland again in person. But that wasn't until he was an adult, and at that point, she was feeling the crushing pain of losing a child again. This time, her baby girl.